Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Calhoun's. Next weekend is Mother's Day, folks. Where better to take mom and the family out to eat than one of the 9 area Calhoun's locations. Enjoy a patio or a deck. Take in a taste of Tennessee. Book now for next weekend, Mother's Day. Chuck Cavaleris, you were at a Kentucky Derby party yesterday. Surprise, surprise. You had Calhoun's there.
Yes, it was catered by the Oak Ridge Calhoun's at Pat Finley's house, and it was awesome.
He always has to name drop a person. I want you to client name drop.
Calhoun's.
Thanks for having him, Pat Finley. hope the cleanup crew has arrived. All right. When Beverly Davenport was nixed and moved to the communications department, irony of irony, you're not a good communicator. Here's $430,000 a year to go be in the communications department. But when she was moved, I put up a poll on Twitter to ask fans who's to blame. And here's what you said. The question, Tennessee's been through at least 20 presidents. It's 21 now. Where does most of the blame lie? 3% said state legislature. They got off scot-free. 14% said school administrators. 20% said board of trustees. 63% put it all on big donors. And most of the emails I got included one big donor's name, Haslam. I'll let you fire in with your thoughts on who's to blame here. I'll simply say this. For years, no one ever mentioned that. It was all, Mike Hamilton did this and Mike Hamilton did that. I've said on this show, well, Mike Hamilton wasn't on the plane in Ruston, Louisiana, hiring Derek Dooley, so it's hard to blame Mike Hamilton for that. The Haslams got no blame. Now it's gone completely in the other direction to where supposedly the Haslams own the university in the palm of their hand, and they're to blame for everything. I think the truth lies somewhere in the middle.
Between.
But anyway, they've been turned into the world's biggest scapegoat boogeyman in Knoxville at this point. Your thoughts, and if you want to say it's them, go ahead. But who's to blame in this?
Yeah, I think those percentages need to be spread out more from those polling results. And if I'm in any of those positions, administrator position, board of trustees, donors, whoever is involved, legislature as well, I'm asking, what are we doing wrong to where we continue to be in this kind of position? Each time maybe somebody gets a little higher percentage of blame with every different move, but you have so many moves, it all has to add up together.
And the idea is the way you fix something is just whip out a checkbook, to write the check, and you're going to make it better. I think through the years, you can definitely say there was some influence by the Haslams that led to some bad decisions.
Yeah.
But when you've had as many bad things happen as you have, there's plenty of blame to go around.
You know, also look in the 90s when we were talking earlier about how successful you were. Who were the big donors in Tennessee? The Haslams. I think there might have been a switch there as one Haslam got older and another Haslam became more involved, maybe the owner of the Browns. There's a slight change in some of the success rate. But again, I don't think you can blame it on just the donors, even one donor there. Creating a scapegoat, I mean, I don't see it going that far.
If I was going to answer your question with one answer,
you're not going
it would be Board of Trustees. Because I think every school deals with big, powerful donors. I think that's just the way it is. I think, the administration answers to the Board of Trustees. The Board of Trustees is the one that I see, okay, if this needs to be reined in, who's going to do the reining? It would have been them. Now, I'm like Josh. I think everybody gets their piece of the blame pie, as you said.
I would be 25, 25, 25, 25 on that list.
But if you said answer it with one, I would go Board of Trustees.
I think the legislature gets a pass. Folks I've talked to, the legislature was involved in this. They're involved in everything. I think part of it, you've got folks, go back to the Greg Schiano thing, to steal from Blazing Saddles. Some of these politicians are protecting their phony baloney jobs, gentlemen. They're pandering. If they see a bunch of people on Twitter saying that somebody's a pedophile, then they call UT and say, we're going to cut your funding if you hire that pedophile. Never stopping to research and say, hey, that person who put that up there is lying. That's not the issue. That's not what he's accused of. That's not true. So I think you had legislature involved in a lot of this. So I think that's part of it, because that's also who puts the board in place. Mm-hmm. Legislature has I think it's enough to go around. I think the idea that the Haslams were mad at Davenport for getting rid of Curry and replacing him with Fulmer, that doesn't make sense, because why wouldn't they just get rid of DiPietro? He's the president. He could have stopped any of that. I think he was involved in that. So why wouldn't they get rid of DiPietro if it was all just the Haslams over there pulling strings? And let me just say this, and this is why I've done this. 15 years we've been doing this show. I have never once sat in a room or been on a phone call with anyone from Pilot Oil about advertising on my show. And the reason is, if you do, people are going to say, you're bought and paid for by Pilot, by the Haslams. If you then have them and lose them, which some people in town do, you then get negative about them. So if you're sitting there at home saying, well, he's being mean to the Haslams or he's being nice to the Haslams, it has nothing to do with any advertising dollars. You can't accuse me of that. But I just think it's a bit much to dump it all on there. I think you spread it around.
I think this is the case where there's not a single shooter.
Exactly. What do you think?
Be careful throwing around looking for scapegoats. It wasn't Jimmy Cheek or J. Wade Gilly or any of the Haslams that kicked a field goal on the 6-inch line against Oklahoma in the first quarter. It wasn't any of the Board of the Trustees that got beat by a Florida Hail Mary on the last play of the game. And through all this terrible crisis of turmoil and management, Rick Barnes took a team picked 13th and won a SEC basketball championship.
There's the positive. Mike Strange bringing out the positive in both segments. Right,
but boy, can you really just trump every one of those things though with, okay, you know, you go back all the way, Bruce Pearl, Conzo Martin, I mean, basketball, football, you know, yeah, coaches have made bad decisions, bad plays have happened, but the overriding reason I think that everything is in such turmoil doesn't have anything to do with coaching and what's gone on in the field. I think it's what's gone on in the boardrooms.
Well, and one other thing, you know, about there are people that think, what does this mean for Philip Fulmer? Are they getting rid of people so they can get rid of Philip Fulmer? From what I understand, Philip Fulmer's one. I think he's your only positive you got going right now over there. Mm-hmm. Fans are happy with it, but I think also, from what I understand, his relationship with the Haslams that everybody says is terrible isn't terrible. I don't think it's bad. I think they're both business people and they understand they've worked together for a long time. I could say, I prefer you, but if they hire you, well, we can work. We can get along together. We've worked together before. I gave you $6 million when we fired you as coach. You got to like that. So I think it's. I think there's two. People are putting 2 and 2 together, and trying to get the simplest answer, which is what we all do.
Which is 4 and 8.
Yeah. That's right. It's 4 and 8 this past year. But I don't think the simplest answer is the true one here. I think it's more complicated and more messy, as you guys have said. All right. And as Mike says, there is no problem. Everything's good.
No, I'm not saying there was no problem. I'm just saying I think your real scapegoats are not is over there. What's going on between the white lines?
They would then turn around and say, but who hired the people who are making those decisions on the white lines? Yeah.
And that goes back to the reputation. Even if you have something good happen, like the basketball run, or you feel good about Philip Fulmer, a lot of people still wait on what is the next negative to pop up.
Absolutely. Okay. What is the fallout from all of this? Philip Fulmer, Jeremy Pruitt, what's it mean for them? Is it possible Tennessee will go back and put athletics under the president, where it was in the 90s, instead of under the chancellor? They should. Will they? We'll discuss all that. Come on back.